Joe Biden there. Well, joining me now is Lauren Leader, who's co-founder and CEO of All In Together. Lauren, thanks for joining us. I just wonder what you made of that debate. We were saying earlier it was a joy just to be able to hear them and to get some policy discussion, to be fair.
Yeah, and you're right that it was the first and really the only serious debate in the sense that there was the ability to cover a lot of ground and cover a lot of issues. But, let's not be too confused. It's normal insofar as no one was yelling. It was abnormal in many other ways. One is that we're in the middle of a massive pandemic. Millions and millions of Americans were sickened today. We're in the middle of an economic downturn, and the president used the debate stage to continue to reinforce false information, lies about the COVID crisis, about his handling of it, and to use the debate stage to lob unfounded accusations at his opponent. It is normal only in that he was not screaming and that he was not that the moderator wasn't forced to cut him off.
OK, well, look, we have a reality check system here as well, and there were areas where both candidates could say the same about the way in which information's being used. I mean, it almost feels like it's part and parcel of what you get in these debates these days. And the point, I suppose, is this. It's about winning over undecided voters, isn't it? There's no point doing it for any other reason. And did you get a sense as to where that might go?
Well, unfortunately, there are so few undecided voters left that that is another part of what makes this debate so strange, is that it's happening 12 days before an election when 49 million Americans have already voted, which is an enormous number. In the last 4 years, many states have added early voting to their program for Americans to get to the polls, and they've taken it very seriously. And that means that we've gotten to a debate at a point where a huge percentage of the American electorate has not only voted, they've also made up their minds. And the polls have shown for months that there are very few undecided voters left. We have deeply polarized candidates on both sides of the spectrum. There are not a lot of people who are confused in the middle.
That's a really interesting point you make there. It's almost as if, and a lot of this is probably COVID related, but people are getting out and doing the postal vote thing. They're moving faster than the system in a way.
Well, more than just postal voting, they're showing up in voting in person in massive numbers, huge lines at polling places. Almost every state now has early voting already open. New York is going to add early voting this weekend, and you'll see the numbers continue to grow. I mean, there were 7 million Americans that voted today. So, in some ways, the debate format now feels really outdated, because to run a debate 12 days before the election at a time when so many Americans have clearly made up their minds, it feels outdated.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Is it outdated, or do you think it's just the timing is wrong? Basically, this last debate should have been a month ago, and then everyone would know where they stood.
The fact is, Americans already knew where they stood, even if we'd done the debates a month ago. We have many sources of our news and information about the candidates. We have an incumbent president who's been in office for the last 4 years. And we have a Democratic candidate who has been in the public eye for the last 40 plus years. So Americans knew both of these men. They were very clear about the differences between them. A lot of this campaign has been prosecuted not through getting to know them in new ways, but through ways in which the candidates have reinforced for Americans what they frankly already knew about them. And that's been true on both sides. I think many Americans, and especially those who were in the middle, independent voters and sort of moderate Republicans, moved away from the president long ago. What hasn't happened is that he has not been successful in winning back or growing the coalition on his side of the aisle. And I think it could potentially lead to pretty substantial losses, not just for him, but for his party.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting also, and one of the points that President Trump was making actually was Joe Biden, as you say, he's got best part of 5 decades of political record. I don't know whether it's to fall back on or to be picked through, and Mr. Trump obviously wants to pick through it. That's perhaps one of the problems for voters, that they're looking for something new, vigorous, dynamic. They're probably not going to get it from either of these two.
No, I don't think that's what voters are looking for. I actually think what American voters are looking for is stability, security, and a sense that there is somebody competent at the helm of our nation at a time when millions of people are sick and dying. It is a totally different political dynamic than we've had in my lifetime. And the fact that Americans do know Joe Biden, I think has been reassuring to them. It's part of why he won the primary over a lot of newer, younger, more potentially exciting candidates. That is not what Americans want right now. They want somebody that they know and trust, and they know both of these candidates. Does that mean absolutely Joe Biden's going to win the presidency? No, but it's certainly been powering a very different dynamic in this race than we've ever seen, and they're reflected in the polls. We don't know what the outcome of the election will be, but at this point, Biden has had pretty substantial and consistent leads in lots of places and spaces that Democrats have not been succeeding, didn't succeed in 2016. And it tells you something about his message, which has not been one of transformation and change and turning everything on its head. It's been one of reassuring the American people that he knows what he's doing and that he can keep them safe and healthy.
Ultimately, just in a word or two, do you feel that the debate was valuable?
No. I mean, I think it's part of the political circus in a sense. I don't think it's changed anyone's minds. It's valuable to hear what the candidates have to say always, but no one's minds were dramatically changed 12 days before the election.
Lauren, thank you very much indeed for your time. Lauren Leader joining us there from New York.